Hello, my name is John Mayer, and I'm the Executive Director of CALI, the Center for Computer Assisted Legal Instruction. The video you are about to watch is from the annual CALI conference held at the University of Michigan School of Law in Ann Arbor, Michigan on June 4th and 5th, 2026. Most U.S. law schools are members of CALI. CALI publishes over 1,400 interactive tutorials that teach the law to law students. Faculty can also use LessonLink to create formative assessments using CALI lessons. CALI publishes casebooks by paying law faculty to write and review books that can be adopted in many courses in law school. These books are free to download from our website, or print versions can be purchased at near cost. You can download the PDFs or even the Microsoft Word versions of most of our books and add your own commentary before distributing to your students. $300 casebooks are a thing of the past, and adopting one book from CALI saves you more than your entire institutional membership. If you would like to learn more, email me at jmayer@cali.org. I would be happy to visit or zoom into your school to talk about CALI.
Good morning. I'm Sara Frug. I'm co-director of the Legal Information Institute at Cornell Law School, and I am here with my colleague, Nichole McCarthy, who is Director of Student Research and Content Development at LII. I'm excited to be presenting as part of the latest in LII's Under the Hood series, which began more than 15 years ago with a presentation on technology we used to unify a sprawling web presence, uniting collaborative content creation with governmental document enrichment. Plus ça change, right? Most of today's session will be Nichole giving a behind-the-scenes view on the labor of free law, student research as a public resource, but I wanted to also take a few minutes to give background on what happens behind the scenes of what happens behind the scenes. LII serves the public, tens of millions of people each year directly, and these days a huge multiple of that via AI summaries of our content. There are 9 of us on the full-time staff. It can be very easy to lose momentum. And one of the most important ways of thinking about the responsibilities of LII's engineering team is helping avoid gumption traps, ensuring that just enough resources are available just in time to be useful to the people who are going to need them immediately. Better than that, by exercising great care in designing the scope of support work, we become better able to protect a creative space for exploration and innovation. Last year, our DevOps specialist, Eric Gollefson, and software engineer Vivek Kumar presented on the major Drupal upgrade they completed just ahead of the prior version's end of life. This is the content management system that's used to support the vast majority of original content that is published on the LII website. And since then, Eric and Vivek have teamed up to keep all of the trains running and support implementation of applied research-driven features arising from Masters of Engineering projects overseen by our language and data scientist, Dr. Sylvia Quache, and our law-trained software engineer, Matt Carey. Sometimes that work involves keeping ahead of security. Sometimes that type of work involves ginning up minimalist, close to the data models to unlock exploratory work. Sometimes it's thinking through efficient bulk data exports, and then using that experience to inform how and when to build what parts of a bulk data API that can be improved upon and extended in an iterative way. Sometimes it's figuring out how to proceed as though we don't have any in-house technical skill of our own and rely on external groups and services to support reaching our own goals. Sometimes we have all hands on deck situations because something is broken that someone else is depending on right now. A lot of the time, our work involves taking the time and care to step back, focus on these goals, and make sure we're steering clear of the foreseeable gumption traps to move our mission forward. And that's it for me. I'm going to hand over the talking stick and the microphone to Nichole. Thank you. Can I get this right? We'll see.
Oh yeah, I got it. I got it. I was like, I'll remember how to do this. That's all right. Hello. Is the mic working? Am I good? We're good. All right. I'm Nichole. I'm the Director of Student Research and Content Development. And today I'm mostly going to give an overview of all of the work that students, recent graduates, have provided in the creation and improvement of the content at the LII. So as Sara just described, we are a very small group housed in Cornell Law School. There is a whole 9 of us. And so a lot of people are more familiar with the LII in terms of the primary content, the Constitution, the US Code, but we also do publish and maintain original content, and that is created by students. So we have a lot of different projects, and many of them people don't really seem to know about them, and I want to give them a lot of credit. So the first one we have is Peter W. Martin's Guide to Basic Legal Citation. This guide has been around actually since 1993, but the current version that we have was created with students, their graduate students in a software engineering course in 2016. And so as things change and we have to make updates to this guide, we may hire a 2L or a 3L to assist with updating and formatting the guide. So this year, just recently, Professor Emeritus and LII's co-founder, Peter Martin, updated the guide himself and with the assistance of 1.3L. And my role in that was primarily writing a job description, posting it in the student newsletter, recruiting, interviewing, and then I was kind of an intermediary helping folks with whatever they needed in the project. And so he worked on the cross-reference tables for states. And he's graduated now, so congratulations to that 3L. And we plan to continue maintaining this guide the same way. And so if you are interested, I'm not going to make everybody scan QR codes. If you're interested, you can get to the guide here. The URL is up there. I just threw that into every collection in case somebody wanted to look at it quickly. I'll give you a second. I know me, I power through and talk really fast, so I'm not going to do that. Okay, and then I threw in a screen grab here. So we have all these different sections throughout, and then I went through at the end and just made sure all of the links were working and everything before it went live. Next, we have the LII Supreme Court Bulletin. And so this is a student organization. My microphone slid down. 1 minute. And so these are law students that create previews for upcoming Supreme Court cases. They do cover every single case on the docket. And so they go through, they create the overviews in plain language, the key issues, the facts, the arguments. And that's for everybody to make sure that everybody can understand these cases. What are we actually looking at here? And so we had 14 law students as managing editors this year, and we had 24 as associates on the project. And that is something that our co-director, Craig Newton, oversees still. And we receive a lot of administrative support from Valerie Kimber and Lilia Barnes. And we really couldn't do it without them either. So I want to make sure that they get the shout out here. They do a lot of work. You could scan that if you're interested. You can subscribe also, and so you just get them the previews as they come out in your email. They're wonderful. I also subscribe to them. And again, I just took a snapshot so you can see what it looks like. So you have on the top, you'll end up having like keywords for each case, and then the key issues. What are the questions? What are the facts? What is the analysis of it? And then there's a conclusion. This would be so incredibly tiny, you wouldn't know what you were looking at if I gave you the whole snapshot. Now we have WEX, and so I've been working on this for the whole 5 years that I've been here now. So WEX is the LII's legal dictionary and encyclopedia, and then this students sign out, and it's from 2 different sheets. So they have a last updated by sheet, and then they have a new entry sheet. And so the last updated, they go through, they review, make sure everything's up to date still, working. The new ones, they can also nominate those. So someone might see we're missing something that's pretty important. Well, recently we updated birthright citizenship, shadow docket. We created those predictive markets. So sometimes new things come up that we see that we should add. We have this year 15 law students that have worked on this and 3 full-time postdoc fellows right now. And overall, over the last 6 years, over 110 law students have worked on this project. And it's very collaborative. Everyone shares the same sheet and they all work on their own, but together at the same time. And so we also have the securities law clinic. So you'll see the difference in the attribution that's added at the bottom. So the WEX definitions team will have the attribution there. When you click on that, it goes to our about pages, which I'll talk about at the end. And they do have all of their names listed. Every student who's ever worked on WEX has their name and their graduation year listed in the definitions team. If you go to the student groups that work on this, like the securities law clinic, every once in a while will do a project for us and they will write new entries. That just goes to their main page. So you won't know exactly who they are. It just takes you to the clinic's main page. And they do that. Those aren't employees. It's a student project that helps us once in a while. And they've also, that's overseen by a professor. And so this is a newer project. I started this in fall of 2024. And this was just I receive a lot of cold emails from undergraduate students at Cornell asking for work. And I wish they could do stuff, but they can't really write legal content. So after kind of reviewing everything and getting my own bearings with everything, I decided, you know what, we could use a quality assurance team. So I hired a team of students, undergrads from all over, all different backgrounds. They sign out the topic areas and then they go through and just review. They read the content. I've given them, they get the same author guide that the law students receive. So they understand the expectation, what these should be looking like, what should and shouldn't be there. Ideally, that no one's hitting a paywall for a link to anything. And then they flag anything that they see. And with that, I've also asked them, don't be embarrassed if you don't understand something, because this legal dictionary was designed to be for everybody to be able to look up something and understand it and get a basic understanding of it. So I also ask them to flag content that, hey, this doesn't make sense or this is pretty confusing. That stuff gets kicked back to the JD team to rewrite. And I'll just flag exactly what was said and the students will review it. That's also helpful for the JDs because they understand, they start to kind of get a feel for their own writing. It's sometimes difficult to take some of these complex legal concepts and write it in a way that everyone can understand. So sometimes it's helpful for them to see that feedback. So I've hired a total of 22 undergraduates since the fall of 2024. And they've done an immense amount of work, actually. They're very eager and it's really been helpful for them. I've received a lot of positive feedback. So I just took a few screen grabs of what it looks like so you get an idea. Basically, we have these main topic areas and the number is how many entries are in each one so they can get an idea. And so they sign it out with their net ID. They claim that topic area. When I get a lot of students, like at one point I did have 10 students at once, I double them up. So one starts at A, one starts at Z, and they'll meet in the middle. And so they'll sign them out, click through, and then they go into the next one. They flag stuff and I strike it through as we go through. And some of the stuff I'm really surprised at what we find. A lot of broken links, typos, grammatical errors. It can be humbling for me sometimes, but I strike it through and then once we get a whole chunk of that done, I'll just collapse it. And sometimes I get feedback from them that we wouldn't have known otherwise because I'm logged in. So sometimes it's just, this link isn't working. It works for me. I'm logged into the content management system. It's been really helpful. So next, John Mayer mentioned yesterday, we should talk about some of the things that we tried and failed. And so this is one that I learned a lot from. I gave it a shot and trying something else now. So I wanted to try to create an annotated deleted directory, which is exactly what it sounds like, and annotate a directory of all of the deleted federal web pages. And so I started getting really in the weeds of this with a former colleague from Syracuse University. And I started in Zotero, actually, because we're librarians and that's what we do. And I archived over 560 federal, just the home pages using the org chart of the United States government. And that was kind of our taxonomy to start. And we connected the API to the Wayback Machine. And then you're able to ping and you don't get an answer, it's gone. It got really complicated for a lot of reasons. Obviously, some things are already gone before we start. And so that's not helpful all the time. But as a director of student research, this wasn't a scalable, viable project where I could easily employ law students to work on. And we got really in the weeds with it. So I took a step back and we're going to create something that's more like exactly what it sounds, as more of a LibGuide where we highlight and annotate all of these other amazing efforts that people are doing. So there's a lot of projects already in the Wayback Machine, like the end of term archive. We have Michigan has the Data Lumos project, the Data Index, the Data Rescue project, and there's the LGBTQ archive. So we're just going to go through and summarize those and like, what are you going to find in this collection? How do you search this? It'll be much more of a guide to help people find what people are already doing. I don't need to reinvent the wheel with archiving here, even though it was very interesting. I'll say that. Next one in progress is a WEX citation guide. And so that also just came from a need that I saw, which was I receive a lot of emails. I don't know how they find my email sometimes, but from high school students and some teachers asking, well, how do I cite a WEX definition? And what I found is there's a general confusion over our entity status because it's the LII or is it Cornell Law School, right? And so that is a lot of confusion where people don't know what to cite us as. And just so you all know, it is Cornell Law School. We aren't an entity. So we're working on a guide to kind of clarify some of this stuff. And I want to add in our Creative Commons license because some people just don't know if they can use our stuff. It would be really helpful to add that in. So I'm still working on that as well. It's almost done. We're getting there. And that's something that also students can maintain and work on. The next one, we have a full-time fellow right now, a postdoc fellow who is working on a 50-state guide to voting. And obviously we know some states have really great resources for voting. Others don't, or it's more complicated or things change and they're not updated. So he's working on that. And that will also be in the WEX collection. It's something that will be easy to maintain as things change. I can always just assign this one project to a student to make sure everything is still exactly the same. So looking forward to that. You can visit WEX here if you're interested. I prefer the browse and looking through an alphabetical order, but that's out of my own curiosity of seeing all the things I didn't think I was going to find in there. And it's very interesting. I still learn something new every single day. Does anybody have any questions so far? I feel like I'm rambling. My mouth is dry. Yes. We're still working on it, so I'm sure we're going to hit some bumps with what should go in there, but mostly it's usually the primary sources for the states to kind of collect everything together for how they, where they vote, how they vote, what's the process, or where they can go to within their state. So it should be a referral out more than anything, but it's still so new. I'm sure we're going to hit some weird bumps in the road with that where like we can't find anything for somewhere. I don't know. So that was actually out of me adding, so we have 4 postdoc fellows now, and I try to have folks focus on the projects that interest them the most. And this student's big interest was voting and voting rights. And so that was something I had them kind of brainstorm. What do you like? Because you see it in their work. If I assign them something and they hate it, if I assign somebody who's interested in voter rights, securities law, it's going to read terrible. And you can see that I didn't want to write this. So I try my best to just, even in the interview process, like, what are your interests here? Because WEX is so broad, it's pretty easy. Anybody can find something they're interested in that they can contribute to expand to it. So that's really my intention behind that, was really, I want them to do what they like and not hate their jobs. And WEX can be, I will say, WEX can be really boring if you're just stuck in this repetitive motion of signing out entries and updating them. So if it's a topic they like and want to engage with, it's so much better. So that's that. And I'll go into another one later, but I have a few other students that are working on some more specific projects. And sometimes it's out of an interest and sometimes it's out of a need. And that one was more of an interest. So the next one, we have the Gender Justice Collection. And I will say, of course, with this collection, it should have a content warning. There is, of course, a lot of sexual violence in this collection. It was originally the Avon Global Center for Women in Justice, and it transitioned to the LII in 2017. This operated as the Women in Justice Collection until 2024, and that's when I took over. And so I changed it. We did the whole transition with our content management system, like at the same time. And we changed it to Gender Justice Collection to be more inclusive with everything. So we also, while we employ students on this, we also receive a lot of research assistance from international pro bono law firms. They help us a lot with summaries. One of the barriers that we do have, of course, is a language barrier. So that is incredibly helpful for us. So I have a tracking sheet. We have a list of jurisdictions that we need or that are just very old and need to be updated. And I give students the option. So this is one where I don't just assign a student. They have to want to work on this project. I'm not trying to traumatize anybody or put somebody into this project that this isn't their thing. It wouldn't be good. So I interview students for this. They usually express a specific interest in working on this project. And then I assign them a country or a jurisdiction based on their interest in what they want to work on. And so we also added new topics lately. So we've added new topics for education rights because that wasn't there. Sex work and technology facilitated gender-based violence. Those will all grow over time as well. So since 2025, we've had 12 law students and we have postdoc fellows who are also, I have 2 postdoc fellows on this. And again, that was based on interest in their own background. So I have one whose focus was primarily international law. And so he's going through a lot of the summaries for like the treaties and the mechanisms and all of that, and just making sure everything's still up to date and accurate. And that is what this one person is doing. And then I have another one who is half and half on WEX and half on creating a new Epstein collection for us. And that's also just that's a heavy topic and you need breaks. So I always offer them the option to switch off or out whenever they want to. So we just started this. I have 13 summaries that are ready to be published. They will be published this summer. And they go from one student who writes them to another student who reviews them before they go on the site. Everything that we link to is open access, so nobody hits a paywall or anything like that. So this will be growing. It's more of the updated collection, and that's thanks to having a fellow who is dedicated to writing this stuff, and another student who is specifically dedicated to reviewing it for me. So another new project that we created, and this was again out of the need, once I started that WEX QA team, a lot of them were asking to work on gender justice, and I had to find a way to make that work. And so this was a new collection for me reviewing it, and there's a lot of old stuff in there. So there's a lot of broken links, language we don't use anymore, all sorts of stuff. So I have a team that they will sign out a very specific part if they're interested in a certain country or jurisdiction. They review it, they flag broken links, and then will find me a new one to add there, or whatever's missing. We're missing a date. This doesn't make sense. Anything like that. They flag it the same way as the QA team, and then I go in and update or reassign it out to a law student. And then with that, we decided to start adding a new section for the US resources by state. So historically, this gender justice collection has had a really heavy focus on international law, and we're going to keep that, but I wanted to grow the US collection as well. So I had a team of undergrads that signed out of state, and they would just collect links for case law. Like I showed them how to do case law searches, search for laws within that state, and they would just link out on a Google sheet all these links that they thought these resources should be in this collection. And then I send that off to a law student, and they make that final decision if it belongs there, if it's really not appropriate for gender justice, and then they'll write the summary if they do think so. And I've also moved a portion of this out to a pro bono law firm as well. So they're also working on these state resources. And that's how you get to gender justice. It's still a work in progress. And you will find the US resources by state down here. And in that also will be that keyword search for the Epstein collection. So you'll be able to find that right down there easier. So I have the one postdoc fellow working on these international instruments and mechanisms, and then one full-time fellow who's working on that collection. And these are projects I don't oversee, so I'll give more of a high-level overview, but they're still student work, and I wanted to make sure that we actually give them a shout out as well, because they're still here with us. So the Masters of Engineering project is they're students who are completing a project. So they work in groups every semester. It varies by the amount of students. So they're overseen by Dr. Sylvia Quachi, and she leads them through the project. And most recently, they did work on a semantic search to improve our hybrid search capabilities. Sorry for reading off the slides. I'll trail off if I don't do it. And then we have the Cornell AI Innovation Lab project. And so these also are not employees, but a class completing a project, and they work in groups in a practicum. So this past fall, they did work on searching the web for copies of LII content, WEX specifically, that were kind of like potentially lifted from our site without any attribution. And so then they flag that. Do you want to add anything else to that before I move on too fast? Okay. And then we have the law and engineering student employment. And so sometimes we have a law student that kind of works as an intermediary or within these engineering projects. And so they work with the staff in between. This year, actually, this was a WEX student that I had helped recruit to work on evaluating the outputs for the Masters of Engineering students. And yeah, and so they also help prototype standalone applications and offer straightforward, non-technical interface for creating statutory supplements. So they all work on different things. Again, I don't work on these ones, so it's hard for me to elaborate. And then we have the LII Tom Bruce Legal Innovation Fellowship. So this year, this one will require student labor. And so I don't know if you want to add more to this one, Sarah, but they will work as interns under supervision with local faculty and internship supervisors. And so just a general overview for that one, and that's this summer. So overall, this fiscal year, we've had a total of 75 student and recent graduate employees at the LII, and those employees are not counting those classes that assist with us. And so shout out to all the students that have helped update, maintain, and create content for us, because we really couldn't do it without them either. Lastly, we have our about pages here. If you ever go to the about.law website, you will find our projects, our staff, and you will find the attributions to the WEX project specifically. You will not find any attribution for gender justice there, and that's mostly for safety. I don't want anybody to be targeted. WEX is vague enough where somebody's not gonna know who wrote what. No one's gonna know who wrote the entry on abortion, right? Gender justice is different, so they don't, and I tell them that in the beginning. I'm not putting their name on anything, and it's the same with the law firms. They have a vague listing on the homepage. That's it. And that's what that looks like. And it's a beautiful website. So Inquiring Napkin wants to know, any questions about that content? Yes. That's the next slide. Yeah, I wanted to stop and ask questions first before I move on. The answer is mostly no for the content, but I get it a lot. So I'll just move on to that. So that's the open discussion. I was hoping I get some feedback for you all. I get this a lot when I explain what I do, and especially to folks not in our field. But I can't, yeah, I do all of that. I say no, but I'm curious. I'll give my personal opinion first. I don't love AI for the creative process. And it's something over time I've learned to see the student writing. I see the students through their writing, and I've allowed some experimentation with it, and it removes that. It removes the soul of the writing where it's very uncanny. And so that's something with, yeah, you can probably create an accurate summary if you review it enough. And in my own experiments with that, it takes the same amount of time. It doesn't, if you really want to review that for accuracy and make sure it's actually good and should be going up there, it takes the same amount of time. But it's also uncanny, and it's missing that personality of the student who wrote it. But I'm not against it. But also AI, that's a vague question. Like what does that mean? Like to create everything? Or I see a really great use for us in our lack of language proficiency in the gender justice collection in international. So using assistive AI for translations, there was a long time where we did not allow that. And it was, everything had to be translated from that original and then into English. And so a lot of the stuff that you see that's missing in that collection is because we don't have the language capability. And so that is my own personal, where I see we could use this is updating, especially like you'll see we're missing a lot of any language in like Arabic, we're missing a lot of the Swana region. But then another thing, we could add some more summaries, right? So you could use it for teaching students how to use AI for summaries, right? For experiments. So you could use it. One thing that we floated around, and in particular, Craig, is to summarize maybe like amicus briefs for the Supreme Court bulletin, because like the capacity of students is only so much with summaries. That would help them to engage with the software and also help us to provide more. But I'm wondering your thoughts, so please talk to me. Yes, I see you thinking. Yeah, and I was like, that's a big one. That's my bad. I've absolutely slipped from reading all day. I've done it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And actually what you mean by outdated language,
yeah,
if you've got to, again, depending on the meaning, you've got to probably something more like a prompt and teach you what that language.
hmm
And I mean, there are good things like cross references, AI for
yeah,
language thing. There are things trusting models, you know, translate, or maybe not trusting it, and then having to give you translation, and then you're not putting it up, or otherwise, you figure it all out, the proper that is like the issue. And so things like have AI adaptive grammar against references,
yeah.
like adaptive vocabulary. That's the source. I have a project where I've been trying to use the languages that are for trained to not fish for the
hmm
So there are things that can be done short of just having AI or computer.
That is true. And I have thought about that, and I've done some experiments with that, especially with just even grammar and just making sure something reads clear, right? Like if something reads a little clunky and kind of running it through, like how else can I phrase this? This is so strange, but it definitely still requires some oversight because you don't want to change the meaning of something, right? And so that is kind of the hard part with that. But I do think it would be helpful for students to be able to critically engage with it. I don't know. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, awesome. Cool. Yeah. Sarah, did you want to say more about like the state collections? Like, do you mean like the state codes, like the original stuff, like the codes and regs? Is that what you're referencing? Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. As far as the original content, what we're going to add is specifically the gender justice stuff in that collection. We're going to expand that. And Missouri is obviously very much, it's in progress. We're getting there. Um, the primary, I'm not certain if what we're going to expand on or what we'll have. I can't speak to it. I don't know. Yeah, I'm not sure. Any other questions? The quality assurance, yeah, yeah. well, I'm just one person, so that's also hard. And it's like, I feel I'm still new, right? So it's like, well, there's a lot of stuff in here. It's really helpful to get the feedback from using Cornell students as our just be a regular user and give me all your feedback, right? And then also it's a mutual benefit of they're helping us and they actually really enjoy it. It never, yeah, it never ends. We'll just, yeah, yeah. And that is one where like you could in part you could find a way to use AI for some of this stuff, but some of it is also just the students really value the experience. And I do really value their input. So that part is obviously really important to me. I don't ever plan to take that away. So, I mean, it dips up and down with how many students I have on these projects, but I've found it to be incredibly helpful. Yes.
Another thing that Um, so you don't want to put, you don't want to trust AI to do it. But it might take a while to have someone. So you have intermediate, and you don't put that up. You elaborate on it. Correct.
Mm-hmm.
This sort of thing you could do. Well, I mean, I think a lot of the skepticism about AI accuracy comes from trusting AI with no opinion,
Mm-hmm.
what the answer is. So they are pretty good now. Sometimes they really good, but um, when there are experiences I find I am much more willing to if it is not exactly just giving me the answer from its general, but doing things like research. Or do this sort of thing sometimes. Go search the web, give you citations, and there are much more involved ways of doing this. Plugin type things like MPC servers, like pulling from gov info, things like that, where they can either just what they found and like you check it yourself, perhaps from a link that they provide the obvious when you click on it.
Yeah.
Or it summarizes, but summary is going to be grounded, something that you just saw. So yeah, I guess there seem to be a fair number of opportunities like that where AI could be not produced, but also where you can where its trustworthiness is augmented by procedure.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. And I think a lot of it is that, and the way I explained it to students is that we don't have the guardrails up yet for that. And so I just don't want to throw people into that. And it's some of them I don't think many of them who work for us, at least on the original content, have a big interest in it. I do tell like, hey, if you're interested in AI, like talk to me and maybe we can experiment or play around. And I don't hear a whole lot from it because I don't want to be like a iron fist, like don't you dare, so I just want to leave it open like for a conversation. If somebody is interested, um, I haven't gotten a whole lot of interest, honestly. So, but I'm aware. I hear it all the time. You can use AI. You can use AI for that. I do let the undergrads, I let them play around with AI for finding resources because all they're doing is providing links. So I'm like, if you want to use AI to help you find resources, it's going through so many other people before it ever gets here and it's not a summary. I don't care. You know, that I don't care. But maybe someday we'll do more. Any other questions? Well, thank you. You can always email me if you think of something. I do respond to my emails. I forgot, there's stacks of stickers down here. Please take some. The QR code one is our about pages, and then we have the red stickers and white stickers. So take stickers. Thank you.